Hey everybody, it's John Ray with NFTHerder and NFT Threads, where we take the best NFT content and NFT threads from Twitter. We add commentary and make that available on YouTube so that you can listen to it in your car, in the gym, in the background. Just make it easier for you to connect with the information that's going to make you successful in the NFT scene. And we've got a great thread that was written last year that I wanted to resurface, because one of the things on Twitter is that a lot of this really amazing content gets lost in the time machine of the internet. And so OK Hotshot, aka NFTHerder, had a great thread, 18 uncomfortable truths about the NFT industry that will put you ahead of 96% of the people out there. We're going to go through this thread in whole, but first, I want you to click on the link in the description of this video and make sure that you are following OK Hotshot. OK Hotshot is one of the most premier NFT analysts and security experts in the blockchain space right now. That's a quote from dapradar.com, and there is a ton of great content about NFTs and how to be successful in the NFT space by following OK Hotshot. So follow that link, and we will get into these 18 uncomfortable truths. These were covered by Cointelegraph and retweeted quite a bit on Twitter. They are uncomfortable, yes, and I want you to tell me in the description which one was most uncomfortable for you, but also vital to us growing as a community, learning from our mistakes, and really making sure that we all have the tools and information that we need to be successful in the coming bull run. So let's get to it. The number one uncomfortable truth about NFTs, according to OK Hotshot, is that there are no reliable, stable investments in NFTs. If you hear the term blue chip NFT, run away. And so this is hotly debated, obviously, in the NFT space. You know, we hear all the time about higher level blue chip projects that are always going to have staying power. But the fact of the matter is that almost all, if not all, NFT projects are hype driven, emotion driven, and really driven by the whims and meta of the time. And so if all of a sudden PFPs are no longer popular or algorithmic art is no longer popular, something that was considered a blue chip this year may not be so in 3 years. And so we just need to make sure that we're keeping our perspective in check and really tuned into what actually is the current meta and sentiment in the marketplace, and never assuming that just because something is marked as a blue chip right now means that it's going to be that way forever. The number two uncomfortable truth about NFTs is diamond handing won't get you the best profits. We have intimately understood this in some of the past projects that we as a community have been involved in. And I think most of us took the lesson away from those experiences that we need to make sure that we have entry points and exit points into all the projects that we're getting into, so that we can cycle profits from NFT projects or from any project back into markets that are less volatile and more liquid, as we'll see in a little bit. You know, a lot of the smartest NFT investors that I speak with use NFTs as a way to maximize their Bitcoin and ETH holdings. And so all of the altcoin, L2, you know, smaller cap tokens that they're investing into, and certainly most of the NFT projects that they're investing into, are ways for them to amplify how much core holding of Ethereum or Bitcoin that they have. And so they, you know, are looking for the most profitable entry points into projects and then exit points out of projects, so that they can take those profits and roll them back into their primary core holdings and wealth creation system, which is growing their bags of ETH and Bitcoin. And it's important for us to remember that NFTs are only as valuable as the person willing to purchase them. And as we'll see in another uncomfortable truth here in a second, if a project doesn't have volume or liquidity, is that NFT actually worth the floor price if you can't sell it? ETH and Bitcoin, the reason that so many whales or smart money move their money from NFTs back into ETH and Bitcoin is because there's going to be massive, way more liquidity there, and it makes it much easier for you to move your money around and actually utilize it as wealth. So the number three uncomfortable truth about NFTs is to stay in the market, you have to pay yourself first. You have to pay yourself first, take profits on the way up. So we talked about that a little bit. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the hype and those of us who are enthusiastic about NFTs want to kind of have that dream that this thing's going to rocket ship 100x, 1000x. But as we know, that's rarely the case. And when things go up a significant amount, we need to make sure that before that even happens, before emotion even comes into play, that we have a plan for when we plan to exit, what we want to get out of the project. If we stay in the project, what are the reasons beyond monetary value that we're staying in the project? Is it a networking opportunity? Is it an opportunity for us to build a personal brand in Web3 to meet the right people and learn the right things in order to start to work in Web3? There's many reasons that you can get into an NFT project beyond price go up, and it's totally appropriate to stay in a project forever if you have properly identified some of those benefits outside of monetary value. But if your core intention with an NFT project is not to be heavily involved in the community, but rather to just quick flip, you need to make sure that there's an entry and exit point because these things do not go up forever. And as we've seen, markets can adjust very quickly. The number 4 uncomfortable truth about NFTs is that derivatives rarely outperform the original NFT collections. So what are derivatives? Derivatives are when a primary collection then has like a break-off secondary collection that is somehow linked thematically. And so what they're trying to do is capitalize on all the hype that the original project got and move some of that other over to another vehicle to grow that community larger, potentially make that project or the derivative accessible at a lower cost. And we just need to be careful that while a project had its moment in time and got a ton of buzz on the original one, the derivative is rarely going to exceed the original. And so we need to just make sure that our expectations are set properly. So again, we understand where our entry and exit points are. And more importantly, what is the value that we're looking to contribute to a project, and what is the value that we're looking to get out of it? If we're just looking to grow our bags, then we need to make sure that we have a strategy in place where we know when we're going to exit a project, what volume levels are the right time to get out, what is our ideal exit price or floor price, and will we be able to actually get that with the current volume? And are there other things beside just rolling NFTs back into the native blockchain token like AVAX or Ethereum or Bitcoin? Are there reasons that we're in this project above and beyond that? Because, really NFTs or any club are fantastic networking opportunities. And so many of the NFT projects that I'm in, I got into them because I wanted to connect with the people that were in that community. And there was value above and beyond monetary incentives. Of course, there are many projects that I was in and out of within a matter of weeks or months because I was solely using that project as a vehicle to grow my ETH, AVAX, and Bitcoin holdings. So you really need to document what your intention for getting into a project is before you're in there, because then you're going to be able to show up as a community member in a more interesting and valuable way, and you're going to be able to maximize the benefit, whatever you define that benefit as being, that you'll be able to receive from that project. Okay, number 5. By the time you hear about a new project on Twitter Spaces, you are late. So many of us recognize this already, and we'll get into in other videos ways to identify projects before they get to the place of being overhyped. But when you're hearing about a project on Twitter Spaces, and especially on YouTube, then it's likely that the person you're hearing it from is already in the project and is looking to pump their own bags. And so we have to be very careful about when we're entering projects, and are we entering at the level of the hype cycle where those making the videos are going to be using us as exit liquidity. And in a zero-sum game, which unfortunately crypto is, we have to recognize that most market participants are out for themselves and are solely looking to grow their own bags. They do not care about you. Now, of course, there are plenty of communities that come together, and as a community, they care about the community. There are many devs and project founders that care about the community. But ultimately, the community exists because there's an interesting incentivization function of that community. If the project stops getting news or hype, unless there have been very deep and concerted efforts to really grow that community into deeper relationships, you see a lot of NFT project communities just fall apart when they're no longer making money. And so again, having that entry and exit point identified before you even get into the project allows you to understand how you're going to successfully engage with that community and the type of community member you want to be. Number 6 is you are responsible for your own security. Understand that most projects don't audit their code or have Discord security. So one thing, as you're doing your due diligence, and OK Hotshot, provides consulting for code audit and for Discord security. But one of the primary things that you could be looking for is, was a project audited? Do they have people on their team that are security conscious? Or are these people that just hired a bunch of people on Fiverr to put a project together as quickly as possible, and they didn't really think about the ramifications of running a project and a smart contract that potentially has millions of dollars going through it? So as you're researching projects, you're looking for something that is going to be able to capture their moment in time and ride that pop culture bubble to a place where you can be profitable. But it doesn't really matter if there's a lot of hype around the project, if the contract gets hacked, if the developer's rug, if there are things in the contract that are malicious or that allow, someone to connect into your wallet. I mean, even if it's not a part of the project's code, you have to be very careful about people who are phishing based on projects. So they're building mirrors of projects. One of the most popular scams that I've seen in the NFT space is some scammer will build out a mint website that looks just like the minting page for a project that is launching. And then they'll get a bunch of Twitter bots to send that out on the day of minting. And so if you've been eyeing a project and maybe you forgot that it was the mint day, and then this bot reminds you, hey, just a reminder, this project is minting today. And you're like, oh crap, I hope I get in before it's minted out. You click through on that link because you want to get in before it mints. You don't check to make sure that it's the actual official minting site, and then you connect your wallet, and by the time you've done that, and signed a connection contract or a nonce, they have gained access to the NFTs in your wallet and potentially stolen not just your NFTs, but your token holdings as well. So you have to know that in decentralized finance, it is your responsibility to check and make sure that you're engaging with websites and with contracts that are secure. And these aren't always accurate because some audits are better than others, but certainly if there is a code audit by a reputable auditor, that's at least one step towards the project signaling, hey, we at least thought about security and want to make sure that this is secure, but ultimately it falls on you. Number 7, the majority of NFT projects fail to stay above mint price 4 months after launch. So this kind of ties into the idea that diamond handing is rarely the best strategy if you're looking to grow your native token or your ETH BTC or AVAX holdings. And so recognizing that yeah, there's going to be initial hype, and sometimes that initial hype can last for months. But if there is not strong underlying utility for an NFT project, that hype is absolutely going to die off eventually. And you may have paid way more than you're able to sell it for just on the mint. And so, one of the things that we can do is kind of take a look at projects that we find interesting right now that have already minted, and look at what their mint price was and look at what the price is now, and then make a decision. Do we want to be somebody that is flipping on the initial hype of something, and therefore, trying to turn a profit as quickly as possible after mint? Or are we investing more in NFT projects that have a longer term utility, or connect into some kind of a DeFi revenue, rewards loop that allows that NFT to continually pay out some kind of token rewards? These are the things that we have to weigh, and hype-based projects rarely deliver that long-term value unless part of their utility offering is that they're building a brand and that they have a team in place that can actually deliver on that brand, whether that be branding themselves as a Web3 company, as a fashion brand. There needs to be a solid roadmap for what that future utility looks like if there's going to be any long-term value above and beyond the speculative hype. And that brings us into number 8, which is that NFTs hold no intrinsic value. When we look at all of the past NFT projects over the last 4 or 5 years, it's hype, right? Like it is similar to the real world, the real art world. I mean, the art community that has existed for thousands of years is now merging into the NFT, and tastemakers decide what is going to be valuable. A painting in the art world is as valuable as the last person who owned it. And so if a painting was owned by a president or by a famous person, it's automatically going to have more resale value than if it's just a new artist. And NFTs are very similar in that they follow the same psychology of taste making and emotional connection and hype, and how much pop culture influence does that artist have, or does that piece of art have? How many articles have been written about it? And so understanding how just regular art over thousands of years has been valued, and how one piece is worth $1 million where the other is worth $10. Understanding that and reading books on art can really give us an insight into what some of the long-term value of NFT projects can be as well. And then also just reading articles about how certain projects get hyped and how the hype bubble is built, and how, a lot of these NFTs that sell for millions of dollars, well, there's a kind of wash trading that happens, or insiders who are buying it back and forth amongst themselves in order to get on-chain data set up that showcases, hey, look, a lot of people think this is valuable. And so it's a smoke and mirrors act that we need to make sure that we're aware of. Number 9, most NFT influencers don't know how blockchain technology actually works. I think that this is probably one of the easiest ones for people to stomach. There are so many people that are enthusiastic about NFTs, but unaware about how the underpinning technology works. And one of the best ways to find out, is the project that you're thinking about investing in, do they have a development team that actually understands what's going on? Or do they have a team that they don't even know, that, they outsourced from overseas, who's just cobbling it together or by forking the code? Like these are things that you can jump into a Discord, and it's very appropriate to ask in the chat, hey, what are you guys doing about security? Who's the dev team? Can I see some bios? Like, can I see a link to the GitHub? Is there a code audit? These are things that you want to be looking for in any project, but as you determine who you're going to be following as an influencer, as a tastemaker in the space, there are plenty of influencers who understand how to identify hype, but they are not always, many times they're pumping their own bags. And even when they're not always the most qualified to speak to the quality of the code or the quality of the security that's available in the project. And so we each need to make sure that we're up to speed on how to identify those things in the projects that we're putting our hard-earned crypto into. Number 10 is NFT projects without sale terms are selling you a token ID with a hyperlink to an off-chain asset. Without terms, nothing is defined. You can't own a hyperlink, so in all likelihood, you bought nothing. And I think that there's probably room for debate on this, and I'd love to hear in the comments how you think about it. But one of the things that you'll notice is that many NFT projects launch without any kind of legal terms attached to the project. And so I just wanted to highlight here, this is what an NFT terms and conditions page would look like. And basically, it's clearly showcasing that you are entering into a contract, with the project. It showcases the ways that you can use your NFT to engage with the project, and that you'll be engaging with their website with smart contracts. It outlines the legal parameters of where and when that NFT can be used. And it highlights kind of the use cases of the art, how that art is used, how they're defining non-fungible tokens. They are also just making sure that you understand what you're agreeing to when you mint one of these, that you're not minting it. This particular terms of service, I believe, says you're not minting this with the expectation of speculative price gain, but rather that you're going to be using it for the utility in the game. It highlights that they may from time to time give NFTs away to affiliates or to people promoting the project. That's another big thing is, do they have, is there a royalty when that they're going to collect when you sell? Did they tuck away 1,000 of the pieces of the collection to give to the team, and the team's going to, are those locked for a period of time? Like, these are all the things that you want to see in a terms of service, along with like, what is the expected gameplay, who owns the intellectual property rights. For NFTHerder, the e-commerce and DeFi platform that our community is building, one of the things that will be in our terms of service is that you will have to self-identify when you create an NFT. Do you want to forever own the rights to that image, or are the intellectual art rights going to pass with the sale? And you'll have to agree that those rights pass with the sale, because part of our platform is that if I buy an NFT, I receive the commissions for any of the physical products that are created from that NFT. And so reading through that terms of service will make sure that you have a clear understanding of what that looks like. Anyhow, obviously nobody reads terms of service, or very rarely, and it's something that I think more and more we need to see well-defined terms of service so that everyone feels comfortable about what they're actually getting. There are so many projects that the metadata that's minted as the NFT, is just a pointer to an image, and that image can be changed at any time. And there can be really interesting utility use cases for that. But a lot of people think that when they buy an NFT, they own the art, and that is very rarely the case, or at least not the case on a lot of the larger projects. Okay. Number 11, the time you have is more valuable than Bitcoin and NFTs. Plan ahead and use it effectively. And this goes back to what I was talking about when it comes to defining the benefits of why you're even investing in crypto and NFTs in the first place. Obviously, there's an opportunity to use NFTs as an asset vehicle to grow your ETH AVAX and Bitcoin bags. And I think it's a very valid reason and way to do that once you understand how the market and the market cycles work. However, you can potentially make way more money by building the right network of Web3 following on Twitter, in Discords, by providing value to projects and getting hired by these projects. Web3 is an incredible space to be working in because so many projects have community purses and they want to hire from within their community. And so if you see a project that could use your particular skill set, whether that's a moderator, making content for them, making videos for them, writing blog posts, writing code, writing additional features, all of these things are mechanisms for you to start working in Web3, and you can potentially make way more than you would ever make on an NFT going up 100% just by contributing your skill set to that project. And that's oftentimes a much more effective use, or at least a good addition to the time that you're spending researching projects. Number 12 is we are not all going to make it. Most NFT traders trade at a loss. This is a hard pill to swallow. And I think, we're all, or many of us are wired to want to be in community and to support each other. And I think it's important to do that. And a lot of NFT communities and have a real camaraderie amongst the people in the group. I see every single day the feedback and the positive vibes that come from our NFTHerder community. And we do want to all make it, but at the same time, making it is subjective. Making it for one person may be that a token or an NFT needs to 1000x. Making it for another person may mean that it only needs to 5x. Or making it for another person may mean I want to quit my job at Starbucks and start working in Web3. So we're not all going to make it in the sense that we're all going to be able to sell the top and make the maximum amount of profit. But I'll push back on this a little bit by saying we can all make it subjectively based on how we're defining making it. And it's important that we have a plan for what making it looks like to us. And then our actions in the project need to align with that. If making it just means flipping for a profit, then it's a zero-sum game. And that means that we need to sell into high volume and liquidity. And that's fine. That's part of the game. We all need to understand that. And there shouldn't be, a big red flag for me is a project that monitors every sale and transaction and then shames people who are selling their tokens or project. If your project cannot sustain healthy selling, then there's not enough utility in the project, and it's a project problem. It's not the community selling that's the problem. And so the opportunity is to always provide so much value as a community that people want to hold and stay in that project, because the community has shown that there are so many other ways to make it other than just selling the top. But there should always be a place for a certain percentage of community members to define making it as selling the top. And it should be celebrated, the people that want to engage in NFTs in that way, while others can continue to add utility, build, network, grow their own personal brand so that they can launch their own project, add additional feature sets. Like the making it is so subjective. And so we're not all going to sell the top. We're not all going to make the most profit from a project, because the economics just don't work out in that way. But we can redefine making it for what makes sense for us, and many more people can engage in a healthy way as community and make it. It's a perspective shift, right? And so you have to define for you, before you get into a project, what making it looks like, and then make sure that you have a plan in place, and that you clearly make known what your intentions are. And I don't think anybody will be able to fault you for them. And if they do, then it's because they didn't have their own intentions set. All right. Number 13, Web2 marketing is exceedingly ineffective in the NFT market. One of the reasons for this has been that, at least in my experience, has been that so many advertising platforms are hesitant to let NFT projects advertise. We've run into that on several occasions. we've also had a ton of success with Web 2 marketing. With some of our past projects, we were identified as some of the best marketers out there. And for better or worse, that grew a community around what we were doing. And we were able to use paid ads and Web 2 hook marketing in a really effective way. It also was detrimental to grow so quickly and not have clear roadmap milestones for how to handle that growth. And so part of what we're developing with NFTHerder is a sustainable way to grow and provide value to an ever strengthening community. Being early in a project is one way to make money, but building out solid utility like we're building with our treasure box game that is fed by e-commerce revenue, by being able to build and create physical product loops for NFT projects where a project can come to us to create shirts, hoodies, jackets, figurines. All of these things are physical product loops. We know that e-commerce is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the idea is that we can tap in to that existing impulse buying that happens online, where people naturally want to have physical representations of salient or important moments in their lives. And that's really the goal behind NFTHerder. Other projects are building fashion brands, or they're building gaming brands. And so a lot of marketing in Web3 has become more community based marketing, right? It's why NFT projects are so hype based, is because the more people that can actively grow their personal brand and then join a project, the more networking power that project has. And where in Web 2, all of the marketing can be owned by the company. In Web 3, it's exceedingly about getting the community involved and getting the community to make content, consumer generated content, and funnel based marketing, which you see in a lot of like course creation content. People are so skeptical, I think, of crypto that it's just harder to run Web 2 campaigns because you run into a highly skeptical audience. And where we're succeeding in Web 2 marketing is by really running ads into e-commerce, into our e-commerce products that, a Texas for Bitcoin or a Colorado for Bitcoin poster or t-shirt. These make it easier for us to use traditional Web 2 marketing because we can target people that live in Texas and who have talked about Bitcoin. Where if we were just promoting an NFT project, it would be much more difficult to find the crosshair that allows us to target those people. So I'll push back a little bit on this one. I do think that a lot of Web 2 marketing does not work because the NFT space and the number of people that hold a wallet even capable of purchasing an NFT is so small that the algorithms in Web 2, a lot of the ad algorithms just aren't tuned to be able to make that small of an audience profitable. Where when you're selling a fashion brand, when you're selling clothing, when you're selling figurines, these are things that are more subject to impulse buying, and that's where advertising can come in. And it's one of the reasons that our early ad testing with NFTHerder has been so successful, is that we're using a physical product loop to run ads and sell clothing just to people who are excited about an idea. And then we're building a relationship with them via social media and our email campaigns that ultimately showcase, hey, if you want to, you can dive deeper into our community with our tokens and with our NFTs and start to earn and learn about decentralized finance through our DeFi loop. So it can be done, but more and more, Web3 marketing is about social engagement. It's really, Web3 marketing is really more about PR. It's about creating a moment in time. It's about tapping into the pop culture meta. And so in many ways, it requires a much deeper level of creativity than a lot of Web 2 marketing. And that's cool when done correctly, but it's also more difficult. All right, 14. Legally speaking, NFT benefits don't travel to downstream purchasers unless specified in the terms. So this was something that I had not thought too deeply about. But of course, one of the things that we want to make sure of is, you know, if I mint an NFT and part of that NFT mint is that I'm going to then be able to have a hoodie for that project that is designated for me. Well, when there's only one hoodie that's associated with that NFT, and when I if I claim my hoodie and then sell that NFT, the next person who buys that NFT isn't going to get the hoodie. And if that's not clearly identified in the terms of service, or you didn't know that, you could have bought an NFT with the value of the exclusive limited edition hoodie baked into it, and then be soured by the fact that, oh, that meta token is no longer in that NFT and you're not going to be able to get your hoodie. And so one of the ways that we are providing projects an opportunity to create additional utility beyond just swapping an NFT for a physical product is by baking affiliate commissions into the NFTs that partner with us. So a project can come to NFTHerder. They can say, hey, I want to build a community purse using physical merchandise, and we can set it so that any NFT attached to their contract, they basically get an affiliate commission that goes into a community purse, and then they can use that to build out items on their roadmap. Or they can offer their holders additional utility by saying, okay, anyone who holds one of the NFTs in this project is going to, the affiliate commissions are going to pass on to the individual holders of the NFT. So there's two ways that projects can continue to get the downstream benefits of an NFT, and that's through affiliate commissions on physical products. You know, most communities, even if it's a dead NFT project, still have anywhere from 1,000 to 6,000 people in their Discord. And a lot of times those dead project communities, because kind of people were in the trenches of learning NFTs together, they continue to be active as just research groups, even though the project is dead. And just like there are plenty of bands in the early 2000s that I listened to that are no longer around, but I bought their t-shirt and I still wear their t-shirt to this day. And it gives me a sense of nostalgia and reminds me of a moment in time. We at NFTHerder feel that same product loop, that same sense of nostalgia can be attributed to NFT projects and remind people of a moment in time in Web3. And we will be writing our project and the benefits of the NFT project in our terms of service so that those benefits do travel downstream. But it's important for us to be conscious of the fact that a lot of times that's not the case. And the initial benefit on Mint is not passing on to the people who purchase. Another good example that our community may remember is with the NFT.com Genesis keys. One of the cool things about that was that you got 4 NFT.com profile mints with your initial NFT. However, once you minted those, you could sell your Genesis key, and the profile links were not infinite. There were 4 attached, and once they were gone, they were gone. Now, NFT.com made that very clear and had some mechanisms on the website so that you could see which NFTs still had profile mints, but early on it was confusing and some people got burned. And so we just need to make sure that when we're looking at the benefits, we need to map how many of those benefits are going to travel down to secondhand buyers. Number 15 is volume and liquidity are more important metrics than floor price. If there are no buyers, you can't take profits. And many of us that were invested in projects that basically have dried up recognize that even if the project dried up and the floor price is still 0.5 ETH, well, nobody wants to buy that project anymore. So you couldn't, just because the last sale was at 0.5 ETH, when was that last sale? How much volume in that project is actually happening? if there's not a buyer, then there's really no value in the NFT. And so an interesting metric to be looking for on whichever analytics platform you frequent is, does this project have rising volume? Because if it does, that could indicate that there's room to make a profit and make a flip on that project. Once that volume starts to drop, we need to be very careful about whether or not we stay in that project. Do we have a clear exit plan? And is there enough long-term utility baked into that project, or enough on the roadmap where we feel comfortable holding an NFT into falling volume and liquidity? Number 16 is that nobody has a real clue what they're doing. This is totally true, and something that I've had to own more and more is that I think as somebody who loves to teach what I'm learning, it is difficult to separate what I'm doing from what I know to be 100% true. And I think early on in my YouTubing career and even on Twitter, when you go back a couple years, like, I'm the type of person that learns best by teaching. And so oftentimes I'm teaching as I'm figuring it out. And that can often mean that there are missteps in the way that I do things, or later on I figure out better ways to do things. And I think a lot of the people that we follow online fall into that category of teaching as they're learning, because as you're learning something, it's actually a really salient time to be teaching it, because you're making the mistake, figuring out the mistake that you made, and then overcoming it in that moment. And so usually you have really interesting, detailed language to be able to describe what happened and how you fix the problem. And that can help other people from having to go through those same issues. But we need to keep a caveat in mind that anyone that we're listening to is on a growth trajectory. And even the most seasoned investors and educators are going to change their mind in the future. They're going to find better ways to do it. They're going to find more efficient ways to do it. And so we have to recognize that learning is always a moving target. And what somebody knows now as the best way to do things will likely not be the best way or the way that they're doing things in 3 years. And so having that growth mindset where we're not set in stone on how something has to happen, and we're never taking anyone's word as gospel, for me has been a way for me to make sure that I can take the chunks of information that are valuable to me, but at the same time, be really present with that information and practice true discernment on what actually makes sense for my investing goals and personal strategy. Number 17 is that celebrity NFT projects are notoriously bad investments. Anybody that's watched a CoffeeZilla video or seen the aftermath of a big celebrity project recognizes that while, yes, certainly people make money, oftentimes the insiders involved in the project, and you can trade, because celebrity projects have a lot of volume and a lot of early liquidity, you can oftentimes get a quick flip in, but somebody is going to be holding that bag eventually. And very few celebrity projects that we've seen have actually followed through with a utility roadmap that actually delivered more value long-term than short-term. Number 18, the current market is moved by speculation such as hype, momentum, and emotion. Euphoria dictates market behavior. Use this to your advantage. So in the early days of our project, we called this the Keynesian beauty contest, if you'll recall. And it's this idea that there's really like several layers of awareness, right? So there's based on the data that I see, what will I do? And then so I play a lot of poker, and so we could kind of put it into terms of poker. So based on the cards that I hold, what should I do, or what do I feel like the best play is for me? But then a second level of awareness is, what cards do I think, or what range do I think my opponent has, and what are they going to do? And then the third level is, okay, based on the cards that I have and the range that I could have and the range that my opponent could have, what am I going to do based on what I think they're going to do? And so it's this like third level of meta that we can, if we're aware of it, we can understand how the hype cycle is going to work and where we want to fall within that. Because we can begin to understand that, okay, in a project, there's the early hype. There's the around the mint, and then there's, you know, usually a lot of additional hype on some projects, you know, to try to pump the project up to a certain level. And then once all of that initial hype dies off, typically that's where people start to sell, and the floor price can plummet unless there's just massive utility attached to holding one of those NFTs. Recognizing those cycles and recognizing my own personal preferences in NFTs and the things that I like to see in utility versus what I think other people are looking for as utility and art and NFTs versus what I think other people are going to do about me showing up in a certain way. Like when you can get to that third level of meta, that's where you can really start to become a seasoned market actor and player. I hope I made that clear. Let me know in the comments if you can say it better than I did. So those are the 18 uncomfortable truths about the NFT industry that'll put you ahead of 96% of people. What did you resonate with? Which has been the hardest lesson for you to learn? What do you disagree with? Let us know in the comments, and make sure that you click down in the link and follow OK Hotshot at NFTHerder. A ton of great NFT content comes out of this account. We can see by the number of retweets, quote tweets, and likes that people resonate with this thread and with the content that OK Hotshot is putting out. I'm John Ray with NFTHerder and NFT Threads. We bring you the best threads from Twitter and make them available to you with additional commentary on YouTube so that you can listen while you're in the car, at the gym, and beyond. Let me know what you thought about this video, what you would add to this list, and be safe out there, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.